to Real Talk No Ball, episode 2. Today I'm going to be interviewing Mr. Tim Hunter. And what will I be interviewing you about?
We are going to delve into my quest to sobriety through my addiction to the marijuana. Yeah, but before we start, we'll just throw it out there that this is no way an episode that we are condoning the usage of drugs or illegal substances. If you do have a problem with drugs or illegal substances, reach out to your doctor if it's an issue and get some help. But this is a talk about my quest to sobriety, and we're in no means professionals on the subject matter, but we have lived experience, so that's where we're at. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Let's kick it off from the beginning, mate.
Yeah, mate.
So how old were you when you first started the Savage Cabbage?
Okay, Savage Cabbage. I was 13 when I first tried it, and it wasn't something that was pressured onto me. It wasn't a peer pressure thing, but it was something that I tried under my own steam. Like I was never a sheep. I always did things for myself, but it was presented to me, and I guess at the time I was already sort of puffing on ciggies, so I kind of knew how to smoke.
Yep.
And so it was kind of like, well, let's give this a go. Let's see what this is all about. And I kind of liked it. Yeah.
Was there a moment, was there anything going on in your life that you thought, you know what, I might try it to escape, or you wanted to try it for fun?
Yeah, it was just for fun. Like I was 13. I had a lot of freedom at 13. I lived with my father. It was just me and him. And I hadn't really lived with my dad growing up. I left my mum's house when I was just turning 13 to go live with my dad. And he was working early in the mornings. He was home until sort of early evening, and so I was just out skateboarding with my friends all the time, and we just having fun, and it was just part of that. Yeah.
Just a bit of a mic fix there.
Bit of a mic fix.
Making sure it's picking up the audio here.
Yeah.
Okay, so at what point did you realise, or did you feel that it stopped becoming a casual thing and started turning into a habitual?
Yeah. So and a habitual thing, or a more of a prevalent type thing. I was 15 turning 16, and I got a full-time job just as I turned 16, and I had money to be able to spend on it. Like I wasn't having to use lawnmower money. I had real money.
Yeah.
And that meant that I could buy weed, and I could buy a good amount, and I could get stoned. And so that was when it really started to kick off, is when I never really got taught much about money management, and but I did know that I needed new skateboards, I needed new cool shoes, I needed hoodies, and I wanted to get stoned, so I needed weed, and I had the money to do that. And so that's when it really started to kick off a bit more. Wasn't really a daily thing then, but it was definitely more than a few times a week. So
Yep. And would you have considered yourself back then as a functioning stoner?
Well, the whole functioning stoner thing didn't really come in until probably into my 20s, really. By then, I was already kind of well and truly into the habit, and I wouldn't have thought myself to be an addict. But reflecting back on that time now, I was definitely addicted to it, because it was something that I did nearly every day. From sort of 18 to around about 22, there was a lot of other drugs in the mix as well. But that was more of like, I was going through some heavy stuff with a friend taking his own life. and just sort of managing that. There was no sort of real mental health stuff. It was just kind of like party and take drugs and have fun and having fun, and but weed was always a really prevalent thing in that as well. But once I got out of that party scene, weed was still there. Weed was always a go-to. Weed was a comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, becoming a functional stoner was I guess something that people use to say, like, I can function in society well enough that I can do all of the things and feel normal. Yeah.
As you're getting older into the next stage of your life, like how did you find that the Mary Jane was affecting your daily life with work, relationships? Was it were you distancing yourself from people at that age?
Nah, no, I never distanced myself from anybody. I was under the impression that I had it all under control, and I did. I mean, I did, but it wasn't a healthy thing to be doing. Like, it didn't. I didn't feel like it was affecting my relationships with anybody. There was groups of people that knew that about me, and there was groups of people that didn't, and the groups of people that didn't know that about me probably would have never thought that about me. I don't know. Maybe, well, that's how I felt. Maybe it was written all over my face. I don't, I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, bloodshot eyes and all. But yeah, like I didn't feel like it affected my relationship with those around me. I was somebody who got up every day and I went to work and I paid all my bills and I was a good person to people around me, and I was a good partner to my now wife, and I didn't really feel like it was hurting anybody else other than me. I now come to realize that those were all excuses that I would use to myself to make it seem okay. Yeah, yeah.
So do you reckon, looking back on it, there was anyone else that might have questioned your ability to function on it, or
Oh,
even though you felt like you were in control?
I guess so. Like, I guess if it's not something that you do or something that you understand, of course you're going to question it. Of course you're going to question somebody's ability to be able to function. You're going to think, like, how can you function daily, being stoned all the time. But the more you do something, the easier it becomes, right? Like anything, practice.
Riding a bike.
Yeah, right. Riding a bike, like, you being a daily smoker, it becomes a norm. You become so acquainted with the effects of the pot that it just becomes very normal part of your life, and you get to a point where you almost need it to function normally. Yeah, and it makes life feel normal. Life doesn't feel normal when you weren't on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, going to from that stage to the next stage of your life, where becoming a family man, was becoming a dad change your view of smoking the Mary Jane, mate?
Oh, of course. Like, when the kids came along, like, I I knew that it was the best thing to do. I knew that it was the thing that I needed to do. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. Um, the birth of my first daughter was that first couple of years of her little life were really hard within our household. We had a lot of personal things, heavy personal things going on. And so for me, it was kind of like a little bit of an escape. I knew that I needed to give up for my family, but I didn't want to, because I felt like I didn't have anything else, to go out and go do my own things. I felt selfish doing that. I was doing a lot of mountain biking at the time. I was still within my mountain biking career there, and I felt selfish for using that time for my own things. And so it was kind of something that I had at home. Like, for me, like, I obviously wouldn't smoke around my family or anything, but it was something I could dip out at night time, I could sit down, I could chill out, I could find that inner peace, and just sort of feel like the day washed away, and I could just forget about life for a moment in time. And even though I had gone through some drug and alcohol services when I was probably about 25, 26, I'd learnt some techniques and some tools there that I knew would help me to become sober, or get on that journey or that quest of sobriety. But I didn't really want to use them at the time. I wasn't ready to give up. Even though I knew that it was probably the best thing to do, I just wasn't ready at that time. Yeah.
Was there a specific moment with your kids or with your wife, your family, that made you go? You were just mentioning that you wanted to, but you never got around to doing it. But what was that moment where you've gone, shit, now's the time?
Yeah, well, I guess like as my second daughter came along and my kids grew up and stuff, like it was always just this thing that was in the back of my mind, like, when are you going to give up? When are you going to give up? When are you going to give up? Like, and but because I didn't really see it as much of a problem, it was just kind of like, well, why should I? Why should I? And so you've got these two internal voices going all the time, like here I am thinking I'm a great father. I'm on the floor playing with my kids. I'm out running around the backyard. We're hanging out down the beach. I'm doing all the good things that a good father should do. And I didn't realize that even though I kind of felt like I was being 100% present, I probably wasn't being 100% present. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got a little
down in
there.
front.
And so kind of, it was just one of those things that I knew that I needed to do for myself. It was, even though I knew that it was going to be the best thing for my family, like it was something that I'd thought deeply about for many years before I even gave up. So, one of these things that I'd thought deeply about was the fact that I didn't want my kids growing up one day and saying to me, Dad, why did you feel like you had to be stoned around us all the time? Were we not good enough? Or what was it that made you have to be stoned all the time? And I couldn't just say, oh, because I enjoyed it. Like that even though that's the truth, there was so much deeper than that. But I guess that was kind of like a real major catalyst in the
Piss off.
We have a moth
down
flying
in front
around.
again.
And I guess that was kind of a major catalyst. But I guess at the time, like when I gave up, when I did decide to finally give up, and this was, a few years of really thinking about it. We were moving house to come to Australia, and I was so busy with packing down the house, getting the house ready for sale, cleaning up the yard, getting rid of stuff, selling stuff, doing all that stuff. And I just kind of was like, well, this is the best time to do something like this, because I didn't want to drag this addiction, this habit over the ditch with me from New Zealand to Australia. I wanted to come over here with a clean start and be a fresh person, and so that's when I decided to give up smoking weed, the tobacco, because I used to mix my tobacco and weed sometimes. Sorry to all the purists out there.
I was unnatural.
But it was a situational thing, depending on the activity. I gave up, vaping, smoking, and the weed all at the same time. And yeah, it was a pretty big moment, but because I was so busy, it was a lot easier to do because my brain was so occupied with something else, something that was bigger than what that situation was. Yeah.
We touched on it in that answer, but did you find yourself constantly worrying about the kind of example you were setting? Like, I know you said that your kids, why were you stoned around us? But was it anything deeper than that?
Oh, of course. Like you grow up wanting your kids to be better than you, right? And I guess what kind of example would I have been setting for my kids if they grew up with a stoner dad? Even though, they'd love me and I'd be a great person to them, they'd always have this thing, oh yeah, but my dad smokes dope. And that's sort of something that they might be ashamed of. And I didn't want them growing up thinking that it was okay. We don't keep alcohol in the house for the same reason, is that I don't want my kids growing up thinking that that's normal.
Yep.
To drink alcohol on the regular. My wife and I, we don't drink a lot, so it's not something that we keep in the house. And so, yeah, I didn't want to be that example for my kids, because generally if something's like that, like prevalent in your life when you're young, you've got a higher chance of doing it yourself when you're older. And so, yeah, I wanted to set a better example and be better for myself too. Growing up smoking weed, when I got to the point where I'd been smoking it for so long, I was so scared of giving up because I didn't know who I was going to be without it.
Yep.
And that to me was a really scary prospect. Like, who are you without the weed? And I thought I was going to be this really horrible person without it. But, contrary to what I thought about myself, like, it was the complete opposite, really. Yeah.
Yep. So we kind of covered what made you quit after all these years, but how did you do it? Was it through just being cold turkey willpower? Any support networks? Any counselling? How did you do it?
Yeah, I've never had any counselling. It was just through my own pure grit, determination, and willpower. But like I said, it was something that I had toiled on in my mind for a good number of years. Like, it wasn't something that I just said one day, I'm going to give up today, and then that was it. It was like a game of tennis that went on for years in my mind, back and forth, the pros and the cons and the ups and the downs, and for me, that's kind of how I do most things in life. If I've got something big coming up, or I'm working on some kind of mental idea, I toil on it for a while before I act upon it. And I don't usually talk about these things. I'll just throw it around in my mind until one day it kind of really sticks. And that's what I had to do with the weed. Like, I'd had plenty of tolerance breaks before, like where I might stop for 30 days or 100 days. At one point I was about 25, 26, I stopped for 10 months. So I knew that I could do it. Like, deep down, I knew that I could do it. It was just about drawing upon that determination, that willpower to really, really knuckle down and do it. And if I do something, I don't like to do things half-heartedly either. So after a couple of days, I put a calendar up in the kitchen, and I put a couple of big crosses on it, and that's when I told my wife, this is what I'm doing. I hadn't told her that this is what I was planning on doing. I didn't want to tell her before the fact, because I didn't want her to be disappointed if I didn't do it. And so once I'd done it, once I'd gotten past that first day and I was into my second day or my third day, that's kind of when I talked about it. And so this calendar I had in the kitchen, I put it in the kitchen so that it was somewhere that it was nice and visual so she could see it. And every day I'd put a big red cross on the day, and I'd get this visualization of how far I'd come, And I didn't want to see a break in this page of red crosses. I didn't want to have to look back and go, oh, I relapsed on that day. And so for me, it was like a challenge too, like, don't break the chain. And my first mental hurdle was the 21 days, because I'd always heard that it was like 21 times to form a habit, 21 days to break it, even though that had been scientifically proven not to be the thing. That was always my goal, was always get to 21 days and you're kind of smooth sailing after that, even though that's kind of when the hard part begins. It's at least if you can get there, then you can do another 21 days and whatnot and so on. So yeah, that's kind of how I did that. It was as simple as that, but also just keeping myself busy at the time as well. And I was busy, so I didn't really have much time to think about it. Yeah.
And what did you find was the hardest part in the beginning? What was your biggest hurdle, your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it?
I guess the hardest part was just like that feeling of loss. Like you feel like you've lost a part of yourself, because it was a huge part of who I was. It was part of my identity. Like I had a massive love for the herb and the plant and what it did to me and what it could do for you. And over the years, I used it for many different things, through mountain biking. I broke many bones, and I didn't take a lot of pharmaceutical drugs. I smoked weed for pain relief, and I used it to put me to sleep at night, and I used it to de-stress, and I used it for bouts of anxiety or depression and stuff like that. But what I've come to learn now is that we have that ability within us to do all of those things without it. And yeah, that was, I guess, the hardest part, was just letting go. And then it was kind of like the body's recovery system. So you go through these different phases of your body, getting back to normal. And I guess the first 2 months of just my dream phase coming back, that was like super intense, because a lot of stoners out there will know that when you smoke weed, you don't generally dream a lot. You might dream in that lucid phase in the morning, and you remember those, but you kind of suppress that ability to dream. And when I stopped smoking, like, those dreams came back, like super realistic, super vivid, and sometimes really bloody scary. And so getting over that little phase, that was really, really tough. Because like, you'd just wake up in the morning, you didn't feel like you'd slept, or you'd wake up like 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night because you've had to wake yourself up from a crazy dream. And yeah, that was really tough, but it got easy pretty quick. Yeah.
Is there any, well, we've covered the getting sober part, the sobriety part. Now we'll move on to life now as Tim. And what would you say that you notice now about yourself that you didn't notice for those 20 odd years that you were on it?
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, like, I always had this idea that I was going to be scared of who I was going to become without it. I thought I was going to be this asshole of a person. I thought I was going to be grumpy, stressed, angry. But the reality of it is that I'm none of those things. I'm actually more emotionally regulated now. I don't feel as angry as I did back then. Not that I was an angry person, but I definitely feel like I've got a better vision for what the future looks like. I'm probably more attentive to the needs of my wife. She might say different, but I feel a lot more present with myself and with those around me. I feel a lot more connected to my kids, and maybe that's just because I'm not stoned all the time, but I don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't feel like I'm shackled by the desire or the addiction to want to smoke or have to find some weed, or I'm not sitting by myself in my garage at night time kind of pondering life and having some cones and even though I miss kind of hanging out in the garage and doing those things, like it's yeah, I just feel a lot better about life, really. Like I've got a better vision for the future. Like I'm only 42 this year. Like life's just kind of just beginning now. Like, and that's not a bad thing. There's still so much more life to live, so it's a really good time to make some changes. And I'm kind of excited, you know. And the last couple of years has been really good. Like I think I'm about 820ish days sober now, so the last couple of years has been really good, you know, surrounding myself with good people and motivated people and people who want to be better. That has a really a good effect on you too.
You feed on it.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm training for a marathon, half marathon at the moment. Never thought I'd be doing that. Hated running growing up. Living in the back streets of West Auckland, sometimes you had to run. But yeah, like not on your own steam. Like, and so yeah, I'm training for that and feeling good. You know, I never thought that I'd be running 18 Ks, but here we are. You know, I'm on my way to 22 Ks. So.
Yeah, and now you're running a run club on what night?
Oh, Tuesday nights.
Whereabouts?
Yeah, Lake Eden.
What time?
5:20 North Lakes.
Yeah, is that kick off time?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Get down there, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
so it's definitely been a massive quest with heaps of side quests to get to where we are now. But and look, I don't regret anything. I don't regret any part of my life. I don't live with regrets. I love the life that I've had. I've met so many good people. I've had so many good times. I can't really recall many instances where I've had bad experiences with weed, and that's kind of what made it so hard to want to give up in the first place.
100%.
But the thing is, all of these excuses that I would use to justify the habit and the addiction, they were all just an array of excuses. I'm a good partner, I'm a good father, I go to work, I pay the bills, I look after my family, I'm attentive, I'm a good friend, I get out and about and I'm not sitting around at home, I mow the lawns every week, all of these things, like they were all just excuses just to justify it to myself. And it's really refreshing now to not have to live by excuses. Yeah. Just not have to fill my life with all of these justifications for doing something that actually wasn't really serving me. And so
remember how it used to make me feel, mate. It used to be like Clark Kent turning into Superman. That's how you met, you kind of felt a bit invincible.
Yeah, man. Like I was so normalized on it that when I wasn't stoned, I didn't feel normal.
Yeah.
I felt out of place. And it wasn't until I got stoned that I felt normal. But that's the drug doing that to you. I remember watching a program a long time ago about celebrities and rehab, and one of these celebrities he was a pot addict as well, and he says, I feel like I'm an asshole without it. And the lady, the counselor lady, she says, no, it's the drug that's made you feel like an asshole without it. And so that always sort of stuck with me, but I kind of didn't really understand what that meant until I got sober, because I couldn't understand what that meant. And it was definitely something that needed to happen. 24 years of smoking it. It wasn't a bad time, but there's definitely better times ahead now. And I'll use that time in my life as a blueprint for what I do next. And if my story can help others, then that's that's a massive positive, and that's why I share it, and that's why I've been so open about it over the last couple of years, is that I generally just don't have anything to hide anymore. Like, I'm an open book when it comes to that, and you might know that, and there's plenty of other guys out there that know that. I've helped a few guys kind of on their quest of getting sober too, and that's what it's all about. And so like there's no point in gatekeeping this sort of stuff. Like,
No, you gotta be real to yourself, don't you?
that's it, man.
So after 25 years of being on it,
Yeah.
do you miss it? Do you still get cravings? And if you do, how do you find yourself overcoming it?
I do miss it some days, like just the thought of it, but then the actual thought of doing it scares me, and I don't think I could bring myself to do it. Like, if somebody put it on the table in front of me and said, here you go, just have a puff, like, you know what it's like. I genuinely could not do it. Like, after about a year or close to a year, I was in a situation where I was somewhere and there was a lot of pot being smoked, and the people were multiple people had offered it to me that day, and I happily declined, and it felt so good to say no. Like, it felt so good to just be like, you know what, no, I'm good, thanks. Like, and I didn't need it. And after I left there and I was driving home, I kind of was thinking to myself, like, how disappointed in myself would have I felt had I even just had a little bit, but I felt so proud of myself for not having any, and for being able to say no, and for being able to look at it in a way like, I'm really happy that you want to do it, and I'm happy to look at it. It's nice to smell it, but I'm okay. I don't need it, and that's the thing. I don't need it. I don't need it. And so it was. It's been really refreshing, actually. Yeah, just I don't think I could ever go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, looking back on reflecting on it now, what do you think people get wrong about the term that marijuana is not addictive, or it's it's not as addictive as I guess I've heard some people say, well, it's not as addictive as like having a cig or trying to give up nicotine or sugar or anything like that. But
it's like anything, the more you do something, the more accustomed your body gets to having it. And if it's something that you really enjoy and it gets the pleasure centers in your brain firing, then like, you tell a coffee drinker not to just stop drinking coffee in the morning, or having that mid-morning coffee. Like, guarantee, like, they'd be in sweats for days. I personally don't drink coffee, so it's not something that I can really relate to, but it was it's tough. Like, you just you don't need it.
Yep. Well, we're starting to wrap it up now here. We've got a couple more questions left, but what advice would you give to someone who's in the same shoes that you were once in?
Yeah, well, I'd just say to people, like, there's support out there if you really want it. Talk to your local doctor, talk to somebody who's done it, because once you do it, like, people aren't going to cut you down for trying to be better. People are going to support you. People are going to get behind you, and they're going to help you. And if you have people in your life that don't support you trying to be better, then you need to get rid of those types of people in your life. Yep. And because once I had given up, like, I think about 50 at the 50-day mark, I put a post up on the Facebook, and that's kind of when I announced what I was doing to the world, essentially. And because there was a large amount of people who didn't really know that about me, or Maybe they did. Maybe I wasn't hiding it as good as I thought I was. But I guess the older I got, the more I didn't care. But I was overwhelmed by the amount of support that I was getting from people. It was really humbling to see how many people actually had my back, and so that gave me the strength to be able to carry on, and I knew that what I was doing was the right thing. And so, to anybody out there who is struggling with it, they just need to reach out for help. And even if you don't get it right the first time, trying is better than not trying. Doing something haphazardly is better than not doing it at all. And so, yeah, plenty of help out there, plenty of free help too. So, doesn't have to be all full professional help. Even just talking to your mates. Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah, it helps.
Big time.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
And I guess the last question I've got for you, my dude, is how important is it to be honest with yourself and about your quest of giving up?
Yeah, 100%. You got to be honest, because if you aren't honest with yourself, then you're not going to be honest with anybody else, are you? So, yeah, you gotta open up the book, be transparent. Accept what it is. Take responsibility for yourself, your own actions. You're a big boy. Pull up the big boy pants, and take some accountability, and just be honest and start being honest, and it'll work. It'll work. Yeah, like I said, might not work the first time, but we just keep trying.
Yeah. And
then and here we are, and here's to the next 800 days, and then the next 800 days after that, and yeah. I got some good things possibly in the wings for the future,
that's good, man.
We might be able to talk about another time.
That's it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, well thanks for being so open and transparent about it, and hopefully
it's all good, man.
Hopefully a few of the people out there resonate with it, and
we do it for the greater good.
That's exactly it, my dude.
That's it.
Well,
that's it.
Good stuff, man, and well done being on your quest for sobriety over for 800 days, man. That's fucking fantastic.
Cheers, man. Appreciate
Bravo,
it.
mate.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks, brother. Awesome, man. Peace out, guys. Much love.
Take it easy, guys. That still felt pretty good, man.
37 minutes.
That was good.
38 minutes.
That's good, man.
Yeah. So a little bit longer than the first one.